Bless the Lord, everybody. My name is Nicole Legisto. Welcome. What is faith? In the scripture, it tells us that faith is the things that hope for and the evidence of things not seen. We also read many parts in the Bible that talk about having faith in God. That talk about when you have your faith in God, you got to learn to trust in Him. So if you pray to God for something and you want Him to do something for you, you got to have faith. You see how Abraham showed his faith and you see his work. Abraham's faith was believing in God for whatever he prayed for. And when he believed, he seek God, he trust Him, he believe His word and do the will of God according to what the Lord tell him to do. That's about faith. That is faith. Some people take faith at a different level again. They will go out and say they want this lady or they want this husband. So they go out there and they dress themselves in a certain way to attract somebody to them. So they go out in a mini skirt, or the guys and go out with this jewel and start to perform like somebody different. So we have to get this thing really understand. Your work is about fasting, seeking the Lord, trusting Him, turn down your path, go on the fasting. Again, I'm going to repeat that because you're seeking the Lord, and when you pray, you got to believe that the Lord will come through with it for you. It don't matter how long it takes, because some people will say, oh, you're not coming through yet, that means that God not here. But no, God wants you to come up to that level. So in that way, when you come up to that level, He will answer your prayer. He will grant you accordingly to what you need at the right time. So that is about your faith. Your faith is working towards everything that is pleasing unto the Lord. Your faith is about working towards everything that the Lord said that you need to be done in order for you to receive the blessing, in order for you to receive what you've been praying for. When you want God to deliver or give you something, there are times you have to make some sacrifice in your life. And the sacrifice that you made is not do things that is out of the will of God, but it's about drawing yourself more closer to God in order for Him to answer your prayer, in order for Him to answer you by faith. And if there is somebody that you're always traveling with and they're not a good influence that concerning the things of God, meaning that instead of they tell you to seek God, they're telling you to go the wrong way. Some of those companies you have to know, drop them, leave them, but talk them at a distance. You understand what I mean? Because you need something from the Lord. So you're seeking the Lord, comes what may be. Everybody who is talking, you've blocked those talk, those negative thoughts out of your mind and focus on God. Focus on what you need and believe in God by faith. And everything that you do it towards the Lord. If you got to pray more, if you got to get up more at night to pray and seek the Lord for the thing that you need, you just got to keep on doing it and doing it. And at the right time, at the appointed time, the Lord will come through with it for you. Once it is something that the Lord see that will help you or benefit you. And then sometime, the Lord will grant you the desire of your heart. But now we have to start pray to God and say, Lord, if this thing gonna cause me to fail and don't make it into heaven, don't give it to me. That is my prayer. If this thing is going to cause me to fail and don't make it to heaven, don't give it to me. You know what I mean? So when you're asking God, you have to make sure that you're asking Him for the thing that you really need, not something that is going to hinder you to make it into heaven. Because many people is asking for things, and when God finally give them, they turn back. And I use an example. In Jamaica, we have Christopher Martin. He was a rising star person, right? I think that was his name, Christopher Martin, for example. He came on the rising star singing gospel, and he was so good and people supported him. People did love his voice and everything. Now, many people vote for him thinking that he will come out and sing, gospel, continue the word of God. But what did he do? He turned his back on God. He is not in the path where the Lord tell him to be. You understand what I mean? So there you can see sometimes the things that you pray for, sometimes when God grants you it, you have to be careful or you make those things get you distracted. Because who know? He was probably praying to God, God help me to win this. God help me to gain this. And then eventually God granted to him. And what did they do? They turned their back. He's not the only person. Do you have many other people that do it too? God started to bless them. God started to increase them. What they start to do, feel like they I am mighty. Feel like they're big. That's the thing. When God is blessing you, God don't want you to turn your back on him. God wants you to continue to believe him and keep on trusting him by faith. Not only when you need something, but you have to trust him and believe and move according to the faith that you have in him. And when you receive it, continue on that path serving him. Continue on the path serving him. God is a jealous God. And many people don't understand is this. Sometimes God allow you to have your experience with what you're asking for because you're asking by faith. So God allow you to have your experience with it. And he give you that opportunity to see how will you angle the situation. How will you angle to worship him? Will you make because of this that you get? Push God aside to the corner. You're not remembering who grants you the blessing. You're not remembering who you seek to receive it. You see, some people don't remember where they're coming from with the Lord. And it go back with the children of Israel. They were seeking the Lord. They were praying to the God. And they were fasting. And you know all about the thing that God said to Moses, that I heard my people calling him for deliverance, and he's going to use Moses to deliver his people. So God hear them. Their faith have touched God. And what did they do when God grant them the freedom? They turned their back, some of them, and start to worship idol. And the promised land that they're supposed to go become longer for them to achieve. You see that? So sometimes certain things that the Lord wants to give unto you can become longer for you to receive if you do not follow through on the pathway of Christ. If you do not follow the pathway of Christ, it will not come through immediately. It will be delayed. And many of you don't want your gift to be delayed. So in order for your gift to continue on the same path, you got to continue to seek the Lord. Continue trusting God, because God is a jealous God. He did it with the children of Israel by allowing them to stay longer than granting them the promised land. Some didn't make it. You can just imagine how many of them come and die. How many of them born and die? They did not make it. They did not get the chance to make it over. Because of what? They turned their back on God. So that's why I'm saying you have to pray to God to grant you whatever you want. But in the midst of it, you have to be bold if you really want to make it to heaven. Tell the Lord, if this thing is going to cause me not to make it in, don't give it to me. Don't grant it to me. Or else probably you might think you can manage it. And you say, no, that's not going to happen to you. You're never going to turn back. Or many of you probably in that situation right now as I'm speaking may probably do the same thing. Meaning that the Lord grant you your desire and you were saying that you're not going to turn back. You're not going to give up on God because God will bring you that far. And now you're turning your back on him. If you're that person out there, it's time for you to return. It's time for you to return before it's too late. It's time for you to come back to the Lord so that the promise that you ask the Lord for will be multiplied even better. Meaning that it's not going to be the wrong path that's going to cause you to sin. But it's going to be the pathway that will cause you to meet your King, to cause you to meet Jesus Christ, will cause you to defeat the enemy, what the enemy put you in right now. So it's time for you to come back so God can put you on the right path. So God can guide you on the right path. So you got to know, when you talk about faith, you got to pray and have these thoughts in your mind. If this is going to cause me to sin, Lord, don't grant it unto me. And again, if you're praying and you need something from God, you got to believe by faith. And when I say believe by faith, it's not going out of the way of God, but it's to stay in the way of God, turning down your path, fasting, seeking the Lord, and then at the right appointed time, the Lord will grant you what you ask Him for. Let us all believe the Lord today by faith, not doing what we think, but doing the will of God. Because you have people, they say, oh, I'm going to get that thing, and I know what I'm going to do to get it. But what if you cannot do nothing? What if you're in a center where you just cannot do nothing, but all you can do is pray? That's your faith. That's your faith in believing in God. That's your faith in trusting in God. That's your faith. And then when you start to pray and seek God, God start to talk to you and tell you what to do next. Tell you what direction to go next. What you should expect. What next. That's it. That's how your faith gonna build even more. So when the negative talk come to you, you're not gonna believe because you're gonna trust God. You're gonna believe God. Because you can't be unstable. You gotta be focused. You know, today you believe, tomorrow you don't believe. Don't. You gotta be focused. You gotta be steadfast. So whatever you ask the Lord for, He will grant it according to your faith. And do not forget the Lord when He grants you the thing that you ask Him for. Remember again, the Lord is a jealous God. And if He's a jealous God, He will forsake you if you do not stick on the course with Him. He will leave you if you leave Him. So let us keep on trusting God today by faith, and you will receive all that you need from the Lord. So remember to love God, be happy, and I will see you again in my next video. Take care. Bye.